What a busy time it is in the political world. We have the federal election coming up September 20th and the municipal election on October 18th. Now, there'll be a couple of questions on the ballot in October. One is to do with daylight savings and the other is with equalization payments. To discuss this in more detail is Lethbridge East MLA Nathan Neudorf. Nathan, let's first off start talking about daylight savings. We live here in farm country in southwestern Alberta. What are farmers and ranchers telling you, yay or nay, when it comes to daylight savings?
That's a great question, Hal. Great to be here. I think they're still thinking about it. And to be honest, I think a lot of them are more concerned about what's going on in their fields than what's going on with the sunshine right now, other than the heat. But they are looking forward to, I hope, putting their opinions on paper at the municipal election in terms of referendum to see what we can do what's best for them and what's best for their business. There's pros and cons each way, but we want to make sure that we are aligning ourselves with our key business partners, both to the east and west, as well as to the south.
Yeah, we'll talk about what the farmers have been dealing with and a lot of the ranchers when it comes to the drought in just a few moments here, how the province is potentially helping. Now, Premier Kenney has been quite vocal on Alberta getting a raw deal when it comes to equalization payments, saying we've been paying out billions upon billions more than we're actually getting back. How important is this referendum on equalization?
I think it's incredibly important. Now, many people will realize that it won't be the final answer. It's not the trump card that will make Ottawa listen to our demands are, but it will hopefully start the real conversation about adjusting equalization. That's what it's intended to do. It doesn't fix all of our concerns, but it definitely starts a conversation to negotiate in good faith between Alberta and the government in Ottawa to make sure that we can adjust that equalization contract for when times are poor in Alberta, like we've been through in the past few years.
So let's say if Aaron O'Toole and the federal Tories get in, next month, this would probably bode a lot better for the UCP and talking about the equalization payments, correct?
Well, I would hope so. I would hope that like-minded governments and philosophies would at least be open to the conversation. The Premier has done an incredible amount of work with his provincial counterparts, and at one point in time having unanimous agreement to look at that calculation to make sure it's more equitable for all provinces right across Canada. So I would really hope that whoever takes the seat after the federal election would be willing to talk with the provinces about how we can do that better.
Now, Premier Jason Kenney is taking a lot of flack over loosening COVID-19 restrictions, especially since the number of cases have been on the rise here in Alberta. The NDP says this is very dangerous, loosening the restrictions, and a faulty decision. What are your thoughts?
Well, I would just ask everybody to look at the science. What we've really seen, particularly with vaccinations, is that the new case counts and the new numbers are vastly within the population who's unvaccinated. So we understand that, and people do have a choice. But once these case numbers have gone through the unvaccinated, where do they go? In fact, we've had a doctor from Edmonton share just today that in the ICU in Edmonton hospitals, not a single case there with COVID is with a person with any sort of vaccination. So we would encourage those to be vaccinated. And again, what the numbers we're really watching are how many are actually going to hospital? How many are actually going to ICU? Case numbers sometimes can be a flashy, scary number in the media to catch people's attention, but that's not the whole story. And we just want to make sure that people are really following the science as we allow the economy to get back on its feet.
Now, many business owners are quite concerned Alberta may go into another potential lockdown as COVID-19 numbers continue to rise. Will that actually happen? Because many business owners, Nathan, I've spoken with, said we cannot afford another lockdown. We're going to go under.
And we absolutely understand that, which is why we've taken the path that we have to try to open the economy as safely and carefully as possible. Some people think it's too fast, but I think we've been very cautious with that and pausing our loosening of restrictions earlier or a few weeks ago. But if you watch the signs around the world with this fourth wave, as it's being called, in the UK, we also saw a rapid rise of case numbers, but then an equally rapid decline as it finished going through the unvaccinated population. It didn't have anywhere else to go. So I am very hopeful that we will see the same kind of trend, maybe a bit of a accelerated case rate, but then a very quick decline as well, allowing us to safely keep businesses open so we don't have to add further restrictions. We will keep what we've got in place right now, allow the opening of school to see what happens there, but we will continue to watch those numbers and monitor safely, but we want to keep the economy going as best we can as well.
Now, speaking of the economy, how is the Lethbridge economy doing now since the restrictions were lifted?
It's been incredible. I've been out visiting businesses for the past few weeks, and we are going full steam. I am happy to report, it's my understanding anyways, that Lethbridge is one of the 2 jurisdictions within all of Alberta leading the charge for economic development and growth. Our unemployment numbers are the lowest in the entire province. We're on the verge of leading all of Canada. We've got new economic development, we've got private investment, and everywhere I go, the new concern is, where do I get workers to field and put into my staff so I can continue to meet the demand that my business is seeing?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, are any local businesses still having trouble finding workers right now? And if so, is that specific to certain types of businesses, or is it right across the board?
From what I can tell, Hal, it is right across the board. It's every sector from restaurants and hospitality, which is great to see as they've been some of the most heavily impacted from the restrictions previously. But I've talked to construction owners, manufacturers, farmers, school bus drivers. They need school bus drivers. So it is really right across the board. Basically, if you're looking for work and want to do something, we can find a job for you. And hopefully that message will start permeating. We'll see people flooding back to the workplace.
Now let's talk about this terrible drought that we've been experiencing here in Alberta, many parts of the country as well, a very hot and dry summer. What kind of help has the province been offering to a lot of our farmers and producers? Because it's been such a nasty summer when it comes to a drought and the lack of water.
Yeah, it's been lovely to enjoy. It's nice to go out in the backyard and get a suntan and that kind of thing, but it has been hard on a lot of farmers and crops and those with livestock. So our government's taken a very active approach initially and at the beginning of the summer to increase farmers and ranchers' access to water within their water rights so that they can keep their livestock cool and hydrated. A very, very important part. And we've also, through the Agri Recovery Program, provincially, we put $136 million, and the federal government has added $204 million to allow farmers and ranchers to purchase feedstock for their animals. So hopefully that'll help. Hopefully that'll get us through. I mean, we've had the added benefit down here in the south of having many acres under irrigation, which has given them a very positive crop this year. But there are some that have had to literally till it under because of the dryness.
Nathan, how is the province doing when it comes to red tape reduction, kind of speeding things up for business owners? I understand you were working on trimming some of the inspection and permit processes?
Yeah, that's right. Overall, we've accomplished about 17% of the 33% reduction that we're going for. So we're right on track with that and having cut huge numbers of red tape, but we've still got more to go. And one of the areas, as you've mentioned, inspections and permitting, we're looking at that. We want to make sure that the process for our construction industry or our manufacturing industry, their permits and their procedures are the same. Doesn't matter where they do business. They may do business in Calgary and Edmonton, but maybe they come here to Lethbridge or go to Red Deer or Grand Prairie. We want it to be consistent and stable. That allows them to run their businesses efficiently. But if it's a different set of rules or a different set of interpretations everywhere they go, that really costs and adds to their business and doesn't provide a great product to the consumer at the end because they're not sure of the standard they're getting. So some of those areas we're really looking at because it will lower the cost to the consumer and make it more consistent no matter where you are in the province.
Many people here in southern Alberta, Nathan, agree that Highway 3 can be a very treacherous highway and dangerous with so many accidents. What are things looking like for twinning Highway 3 here in the province?
Well, it's in the engineering and design phase, so we're really excited about that. And I believe they're just acquiring the last few pieces of land. Then the next step in that design is to make sure they've done their environmental scans wherever they touch a waterway, whether that's a creek or a ditch or something like that, to make sure we're protecting wildlife. And once they get that completed, likely will be sometime this winter, But I really look forward to next year when they can break ground and you start seeing those lanes being twinned in between the passing sections that are there now. I think it'll really add to safety, and I think a lot of people are very excited to see that highway actually being built next year.
Now, you were elected to become the UCP caucus chair. I know that's probably not an easy task for you, especially with all of the heated internal debate between UCP MLAs, which got a few of them even turfed from the party. What is your plan to convince everyone to simply get along?
Well, besides my smile and winning personality, what we like to do is we create an environment for listening, and we want to do that respectfully and confidentially. I would just ask your viewers and people watching to understand that when you enter a conversation or a debate with an open mind, the place where you end up might not be the place where you begin. So to allow for that change of opinion, change of position to be done fairly and without coercion, you do need that confidence. You need that understanding that I can make a point and maybe I'm off base with that point, but I can learn and grow. And that's what we're really trying to do, is create that dynamic where people can share their starting points safely and allow for that discourse to take place where we can educate one another, we can listen to others' arguments, and we can be convinced of a better path if there is one forward, or we can convince others of the path that we see. And that's what I'm really trying to do.
Are MLAs still being allowed to speak their minds freely, or is it more about towing the party line?
Oh no, we want our MLAs to speak freely. We want them to share their ideas. That's how we grow. But it is about doing that in confidence. It's much more difficult if you share that publicly and then find out some further information, and then it's very hard to retreat. So it's not about towing the party line. What it is about is confidence, learning and debating behind closed doors, and then coming together in consensus when we open those doors, so we can show Albertans that we have fought this through and we have decided to move through unified and together. And we might have different viewpoints or different degrees of understanding on that, but we want to go through those conversations properly and to represent our constituents the best we can.
Now, the province recently announced the $6.9 million Lethbridge Broadband fibre project. What will this really mean for our community?
Well, it's going to be predominantly put into infrastructure that's going to help the Sharing and Churchill industrial parks here on the north end of Lethbridge. But it's going to allow a lot of businesses and possibly even some families and students to connect to the internet. And as we've seen over the past couple of years, that internet connection is vital when you go through a pandemic, because it's really hard to go as many places as you want. Now, hopefully we don't have to return to that, but businesses, again, we are part of a very global economy, particularly with our agricultural sector. And we need our businesses to be able to link up and connect with their clients and customers and trading partners around the world whenever, wherever they can, and without delays. So I think this will be a great benefit to the city of Lethbridge.
Now, Lethbridge City Councillor Rob Miyashiro announced recently that he'll be seeking the nomination to represent the NDP in your riding in Lethbridge East in the next provincial election. What are your thoughts with that? Rob's a little competition here?
That's true. I think it's great. I think it's part of democracy, and I think the individuals and citizens of Lethbridge deserve to have choice. So I wish him well. He's in the nomination process. We don't know who else may throw their hat into that ring. And they will have their process to go through that. And then at the next election, I expect a full slate of competition to challenge me for this seat, of which it's a great honor to hold and represent. And I'll do my best to continue to earn that right from the citizens of Lethbridge East.
Now, speaking of election, let's talk about the upcoming federal election on September 20th. Any thoughts on what kind of outcome would improve the economic situation for Lethbridge and Alberta?
Of course. Obviously, there's a party that holds the same colors as mine, and the color blue, and we all know what that means. But I think how I think about it is I'd really love to see the representative from Lethbridge and maybe several counterparts from Alberta sitting at a cabinet table in Ottawa. I think that would best represent our ideas, our vision, our hopes, our economy. And that's what I really want to see for Alberta and for Lethbridge as a result of the upcoming election. Rather than trying to forecast the outcome of that, I think, like everyone else, I want my voice to be heard. I want my rights to be protected. And I want my prospects and future for myself, for your family, for my family, for the kids in the next generation to have the best success going forward. And that's what I really think I want to see out of this election, out of the democratic process, is a voice at the table.
Nathan Neudorf is the MLA for Lethbridge East. Thanks so much for your time today, Nathan.
You bet. Thank you, Hal. Pleasure to be here.